What's going on, guys? Today's video is going to be fairly basic. The topic is what you need to do if you are changing your spark plugs and you find oil on them, whether on the top or on the threads when you're removing them from the engine. What does it mean? Is it a major concern? How hard is it to fix? And I'll preface by saying, if you have oil on your spark plugs, when you go to change your plugs, you find oil on them, it's most likely going to be your spark plug tube seals. These guys right here. There's 3 of them, and they are very, very easy to get to. All we need to do is remove the valve cover. We have these 8 bolts holding it on, and you'll see the spark plug tube seals kind of just sitting in there. They just pop right out. So this is going to be a pretty straightforward video, but I want to show you how to replace these. I know my videos kind of cover an entire range of topics from internal engine work, tuning, things like that, to even basic stuff on like how to replace anodes and stuff. This channel does not have a specific audience. It's kind of for everyone. So if you're a advanced person or someone who, you know, very low level basic, just kind of wants to do their own work, this is the channel for you. I don't have a target audience. So today's video is going to be fairly basic. All we need to do is, the first is remove our coil packs. That's these guys here. So we'll just remove these each, and I'm going to stage the camera here in a second too. On this model, this is a 260. The coil packs are just pressed in. They just kind of sit in there, so they'll pull out. If you have a newer SeaDoo, there's going to be a T30 bolt holding them in. And actually, I have one on my 325 over here. I'll show you. This is the new style coil packs, and there's a T30 bolt that holds it in. So you just need to unthread that and your coil pack will lift off. On this, again, they're just pressed in. If you have the round style, they're very easy. They just pull right out. So put those aside. We don't need to remove the spark plugs, by the way. They can stay in, so we just need to remove the coil packs. I'm gonna go ahead and stage the camera, and I'll show you the next steps of what we need to do here. All right, so the next thing we need to do is remove the 8 bolts that are holding on the valve cover. And to do that, we're going to be using a E8. This is a inverted Torx bit. You want to use this bit. I know you can get away with using like a 1/4 inch or whatever, but you do not want to strip these bolts. If you strip these bolts, it's going to be a very, very difficult time to get them off. E8 is the way to go. I'll link this in the description. Pretty much a majority of SeaDoo bolts and nuts are Torx bit related, so they're standard Torx or inverted Torx. If you get a standard kit that has a bunch of bits with it, it just makes it so much easier to work on everything you need to work on. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these 8. All right, don't ask me why I did that by hand. Should have just used a electric ratchet, but whatever. All right, so I'm gonna get the coil pack harness out of the way just so it doesn't bind. And then all we need to do is lift off the valve cover. This does use a rubber gasket that we can reuse, so we don't have to be too careful about it. Just pop it up like so, and we'll just lift it up and out of the way. Check this out, guys. There is so much rust on the rocker arm bar. We have rust on our springs, on the studs, and this is all because the intercooler failed and it was basically just dumping water into the engine. It sat for too long and caused some damage. So I'm not sure what the extent of the damage is yet. I have to do some testing with the engine and all that stuff, but you know, this just goes to show why you need to address this stuff as soon as it happens. Otherwise, you're just going to run into problems like this. But, you know, that's a topic for another video. Right here, you can see that we have our spark plug tube seals. There's 3 of them. And there's nothing holding them in. They just simply pop right out just like that. It's been pretty much the same part number for these tube seals for the past 20 years or so. So all we need to do is put the affected one aside. We'll take our new one, put it in, and just push it down so that the bottom rubber makes contact with where the spark plug is. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Super easy to replace. Obviously, you want to replace each one. If I see people do this, if only one spark plug is leaking, they'll just replace the one seal. I recommend just replacing all of them, because if one is leaking, you're bound to have the other two leak at some point soon as well, because you know they're just rubber seals. They go through a lot of heat cycles. The rubber shrinks over time, it gets brittle, and that's what causes them to leak. So you're better off just replacing them all at the same time. So that's it for this. The install, or putting everything back together, is literally just the opposite. But one thing I want to point out is our studs here. Now, if you notice, there is a lip, and this is what's going to bottom out and hit the head that it threads into. So one of the mistakes I see a lot of people make is when they are torquing these bolts down, they think they got to make it really tight so it doesn't leak oil, so they do excessive amounts of force, and it is not necessary at all. You're relying on the gasket for sealing. You are not relying on your studs for sealing. So it has a pretty weak stem in here. If you torque it beyond what it's meant to be, you will break the stem, and then you have no choice. You have to remove the valve cover. You're gonna have to use an extractor and hopefully get it out of the head. And if not, you know, you're in pain. You're gonna have to replace the head or pull it off, bring it to a machine shop. So when you're putting these bolts down, just tighten them to when it stops, and then just do a tiny bit beyond that. You do not have to overdo it. There is a torque spec to it, but realistically, it's just one of those things. It's like spark plugs. You just kind of get it until it's tight, and you'll be perfectly fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get this cleaned up real quick, and then we'll go ahead and put the valve cover back on. Quick side note, look how much rust I just wiped off of the rocker arm assembly. So I sprayed some fogging oil on the whole top side until I can address this later. But let's go ahead and just continue on with the video. We'll put the valve cover back in place. We'll just gently put this in to the spot it needs to be. Get it lined up there. Okay. And now we can go ahead and just thread in our bolts. Now that we have the valve cover on, we can go ahead and just reinstall our coil packs. And again, this is a 260, so there is no T30 bolt holding it in. We just have basically just suction. Reconnect our connections. And that's all we need to do. So we are good to go. The spark plug tube seals are replaced. Now, I did not replace the valve cover gasket that goes all around. Generally, even though SeaDoo says you should replace that every time you take the valve cover off, you can reuse them. The only time you need to really replace it is if you start to notice a oil leak around the side where that gasket is pressed in. But that's, you know, one of those things you can kind of save money on. I don't even know how much they sell for. Last time I checked, it was like $25 or $30 something. So you can save some money there. But that's all there is for this. It's very, very straightforward. This is one of those things you can absolutely DIY if you are changing your own spark plugs. Actually, I would say changing spark plugs is probably more difficult than fixing your tube seals. Even though it looks like it's more complicated, it is really not hard at all. So save yourself some money. You could do that stuff yourself. If you guys have any questions about how to do the tube seals, or if you need recommendations on part numbers or whatever, please, drop a comment and I'll be happy to get back. One thing I do want to point out is to make sure you use, I would highly recommend sticking with OEM tube seals. You can find these on Amazon and eBay for pretty cheap, but if you go aftermarket, they're probably not going to use the best rubber. It may work for a little while, but you just cannot judge the quality of these things, and the OEM ones are not that expensive. Put new OEM ones in, they'll probably last you another 10 years. So just spend a few extra dollars and stick with OEM. But that's it for this one. If you guys have any questions, let me know.